And thank you for tuning in to the Rangers Rabble. Before we get to the content, I would just like to let you know about a brand new sponsor that we have, Rangers Pools. For every £1 that you spend, you help support the building of the new Edmiston House. And if you sign up with the code Rangers Rabble Podcast, you're also helping the podcast as well. So, Wilf, I know that you've used Rangers Pools before.
I have indeed, Martin. I use it every week. I've got two lines on the direct debit. I play every week. It's very easy to navigate. You just go on, make yourself an account, go onto the pools page. You can either do it weekly or, as I do, just with a standing order of numbers. It's from memory. I think it's 10. The first 10 games you think are going to be score draws in the coupon every week. But football's that random. I just said, right, that'll be 10 numbers. That'll be 10 numbers. There's my £2 every week, and let's just see what happens.
We'll see, there you go. So it's dead easy to use. And of course, if you do sign up in the support of branch agency, if you just put in Rangers Rabble Podcast, you're helping support Rangers, support the building of the new Edmiston House, but you're also helping to support the Rangers Rabble Podcast. So thank you very much, and I hope you enjoy the content.
Good evening and welcome to the Rangers Academy Review number 5. Sorry it's been a bit of a gap since the last one, but work and football and everything else has kind of come to a bit of a halt at times, so this is my next chance to catch up with everything. Tonight we're met by the great Colin Stewart. How are you?
I'm very well, thank you, William. Thank you for inviting me on. It's a pleasure to be here.
Yeah, we're delighted. Been trying to chase you for a while now, so it's good to have you on finally.
Yes, it's been strange recently. We're all, as you can probably see, working from home these days. Yeah. So it's all very strange. We'll get there.
We will, mate. Hopefully it won't be too much longer now. Hopefully.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Okay, we're going to start off with Nathan. Obviously, he's the kind of talk of the town. We taking over for James Tavernier at right back, and obviously playing so well that some people are talking about him now being part of the Scotland international squad, which is a bit crazy considering only a few months ago he was really just a young kid, so obviously developing behind James, learning everything at the training ground and working on his, the kind of attacking and defensive side of his games. How impressed have you been with Nathan from what you've seen of him so far?
Yeah, well, I guess a bit like yourself, I've known Nathan for a few years, and he's a lovely kid, a lovely family. I've always been impressed with his determination to succeed and his application and his confidence, I think, has always struck me. I mean, I tell this story sometimes. It's a game you were at, William, over in Slovakia. Would that have been 2 years ago, pretty much, a year and a half maybe now?
Yeah.
So I don't know if you remember the very first, it was the kickoff, the ball went straight back to Nathan. He's playing right back, obviously, and he was, the touchline is on his right-hand side, and he's looking up the touchline. I think it was Kai Kennedy maybe, and he's waiting to put a long ball up the touchline, and he's waiting, and we could see the opposing winger, who was a big lad, a big chunk of a lad, come and tear him down to close him down 5-6 seconds into the game, and the boy launched into a big sliding tackle, and Nathan waited, and then just nutmegged him, and then walked away. The guy's sliding off the pitch because it was a kind of wet night. And that kind of summed Nathan up for me. His confidence in the game. It was a European game. We're playing against a decent team. There was a big lad homing down on him 6, 7, 8, 9 seconds into the game, and he decided he knew what he was doing. That wasn't a fluke. He feigned to put it up the wing, but he just nutmegged the guy. The guy's away, and for me that kind of sums up the confidence that Nathan has, and certainly the ability. I don't think that's ever been in doubt. But like any kid, kids need development, and they'll get that through playing. And Nathan's actually taken his chance just now, So I'm personally delighted for Nathan. He's a lovely kid, and hopefully, fingers crossed, he'll be with us for a very long time.
Yeah, I think that's the big thing. We're quite fortunate in that we've had some contact with some of the lads and some of the parents over the years, so you get to know the kid as well in terms of his personality and his nature. And Nathan is a really nice lad who has obviously had to work really, really hard, even get the opportunity. He's had to sit behind James Tavernier for a long time because he's not one of these players that picks up that many injuries overall. So he's had to bide his moment and kind of he's waited and waited, and when his chance came, I think he's took it really well, and he's not looked out of place. And I think, as we kind of said at the start, that the fact there's already some people talking about him being in the national team after whatever that is, like 9, 10 first team games.
Yeah,
it's unusual to have that, but I think he deserves it just on the balance of how well he's played, and the fact he's done it in the big games. It's the fact he's done it against Celtic, he's done it in the European stage, he's showing up well, and that just shows you, as you said earlier, how confident he is. And
yeah, sure.
As I know some people say it's arrogance, but it's not. It's just the fact that you're confident in your own ability, and you need to be, when you play for Rangers, you need to be confident in your ability, because you're constantly being tested, and everybody's looking at you from every angle. Every journalist is looking for a story to see how good or bad you are. And that's why playing for Rangers is one of the biggest tests you'll get as a young player.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, to be honest with you, I think the Scotland gig is probably a bit early for him. But you know what? Pelé played in the World Cup finals at age 16, and I'm guessing there's a pilot. Wayne Rooney was probably playing for England at 17, 18, whatever. So if you're good enough, you're old enough, as it were. And certainly knowing Nathan and his confidence in his own ability, he certainly wouldn't let anyone down at any level. And as I say, you and I have watched Nathan for a few years now, and he's a very positive kid. I love seeing him charge forward. It's the first thing on his thought is to go forward and put the opposition under pressure, etc. And I love watching him play, to be honest with you. And it's a great bonus that he's one of ours. I'm kind of old enough. I'm almost 20 years at the club, and I'm kind of old enough to have watched a few players come through the academy and make it, and certainly in Nathan's position, Alan Hutton is probably the best example. He's not too dissimilar from Alan Hutton at the same age, tall, gangly, athletic, up and down the wing. Not too dissimilar, to be honest with you. So hopefully, fingers crossed for Nathan that he has the same level of career that Alan had, quite a few years in the English Premiership. So fingers crossed for Nathan. He's as I say, a lovely kid, and I wish him all the best.
Yeah. Okay, we'll move on, since we've praised Nathan enough for about 5.5 minutes. He's probably getting a bit of your ego boost there after that. Okay, just moving on. Obviously, recently there's been some pictures. Obviously, Rangers have obviously put on the website of Leon King and Jay Hogarth training with the first team. I think lots of people have to understand they're still only young kids. They're still only 17. But what does that mean to people from the outside? A 17-year-old training with the first team, is that exciting for supporters to look at, or is it just a matter of letting the boys sort of develop in their own time?
It's probably a bit of both, to be honest with you, William. I think it's tremendous. I know because I've watched and I've been told that each of the kids who goes round there is there on merit. He's not there because let's just give everybody a chance. So they've obviously trained well and done well at the academy. So certainly anyone going round, and I've spoken to one or two over the years, that what they bring back is the, if you like, the desire to go and do that again, because they go back to the academy and it's all different again. And for Jay to go round, for example, from the academy setup, and suddenly he's training with Alan McGregor. Do you know what I mean? That must be wow. And I don't think that the boys would be overly nervous about it, because they see that they're around the first team players all the time, and quite often the majority, if not all, of our sort of 16, 17, 18-year-olds are Scottish, internationalists throughout the age groups, 14, 16. So they've played all over the Europe, if you like, with Rangers in the first place, and probably with Scotland as well. So they're all experienced players, like Liam going there. Liam's played for Scotland, he's played for Rangers, he's played against Celtic at various age groups. So going round there, he might be nervous walking around, and sort of settling in. He's probably got a bit of humour going on with the older guys, but I know from experience, guys like Jermaine Defoe and Scotty Arfield, etc. They'll talk to them and they'll coach them. Stephen Davis, Tab, etc. The captain, they'll all coach them and talk to them and give them the confidence that they're doing okay, etc. And I don't think anybody would ever sort of let themselves down. I think all they'll do is benefit from going round there. So, which is one of the reasons they go round, to sort of just because the level I'm guessing, I've never done it, but I can only imagine the level is just that bit higher than what they're doing at the academy. You know, the training might be more intense, it'll be faster, the ball will be moving quicker. I'm guessing all of this, but I'm sure it is. You know, and I'm quite sure, you know, if anybody going round, once they walk off that pitch at the end, they'll be absolutely buzzing. They probably won't sleep that night, you know, and they'll be thinking of all the good things that they did, you know, playing with Steve Davis. And can you imagine Lee and a bounce game at the end, partnering maybe Connor Golson or Philip Hollander at Swedish International? That's incredible experience, you know. And again, it can only benefit the boys' development going forward, you know. So again, two lovely kids, two lovely families, you know.
No, I think that's the thing, and I think also when you look from the outside, somebody like Leon's obviously been kind of named for the last, I don't know, like 2 years since he was 15. There's been so much talk about Leon, but he's genuinely a really nice lad. I mean, I've been lucky enough to speak to his mum enough times, and she's lovely, you know. And I think that people have to understand as well that there's a certain degree of protection around young kids, you know, especially when there's so much hype around them. And Leon, in a lot of the ways, a bit like Billy, was in the papers, you know, he's rejecting contracts, this is going on. And it was, you know, in my opinion, it was wrong. The kids should have just been left to play, because that's all these boys want to do is just play. And I think now that Leon is training with the first team, as you pointed out, I mean, imagine getting to watch Connor every day, you know, watch Tav every day, Philip Hollander, with Jay, obviously you've got Alan McGregor, and you've obviously got John McLaughlin, you know, so I mean, that's a phenomenal amount of experience.
Yeah.
So I think
it's invaluable. Yeah,
of course it is. It's massive, and it's something. I mean, those two kids could still be playing under 18 football. They could have been playing today against Celtic, but you know, the club's made the decision to put them in the first team squad so they can work with them, develop them, improve them. And at the end of the day, that's what really matters. You know, I know we want to win every game, of course we do, but at the end of the day, let's, you know, we've got Nathan in the first team now. What's to say in the next couple of years we don't have another 2 or 3 of these kids? And that's what we all want. I mean, that's why you're doing your job, and that's why I enjoy doing the updates and I enjoy watching them play. So, I mean, like, to me, like, if you're a supporter of Rangers, I think it's important that we do have our own kids coming through, that we develop our own talent, because it's going to save the club money, first and foremost. And we're going to have kids coming through that know what it means to pull on that jersey, because they've came to the club at a young age and they've developed to the first team.
I mean, it is obviously, you know, not rocket science here. It's obvious that you know, we cannot buy £15 million players anymore, and you know, and if we can have you know, 1 or 2 players coming through the academy into the first team on a yearly, or maybe even every second year, that's the ideal scenario, you know. And we have had a few over the years. Al McGregor's an academy kid, you know, with Charlie Adam and Alan Hutton and 1 or 2 others, you know. Barry Ferguson came through the academy at some point, you know. So there's a lot there just now, and I'm not going to name any in terms of who I think is going to be the next person, because that's not what I'm here to do. You know, I'll leave all that to the guys at the academy. I'm on the business side at Ibrox, if you like. I've got nothing to do with, you know, any of the football side of the club. You know, so but there's you know, just like yourself as a fan, you know, you're watching a lot of the kids. Some of the guys we've named already, and probably 1 or 2 others we'll talk about in a second. You know, if they're out on loan perhaps. There's a lot of really top quality kids that have come through the academy, and that, for me, that's a reflection on the tremendous job that Craig Mulholland and his staff have done over, I mean, I'll say 5 years, but more than that. But certainly, there's definitely been a step change in the academy in terms of, you know, everything that Craig is doing now. In terms of, if you look back when Craig took over, and you know, I think we're seeing something special happening at the club, you know. And some of the players you mentioned already, you know, Nathan and Leon and Jay and Nicky Hogarth as well. You know, when you see them all, you're thinking this. I mean, and no disrespect to players from maybe even 10 years ago who were coming through the academy, would just seem to be that bit, you know, higher quality and quantity as well. You know, and previously, you know, I mentioned I've been here 20 years. You know, you would perhaps go and watch maybe the under 18 as it was then, and there might be one player there you would think, yeah, he'll make it, but you're kind of looking at the others and thinking, no, they're probably just making up the numbers. But you go to an under 18 team now, a Rangers game now, or a development squad now, and someone will come off and someone will come on it, and there's no drop in quality of standard. you know, and you're thinking there's 14, 15 players in these squads who are every bit as good as each other. The quality now is incredible, and I think that's testament to the great job that Craig is doing and has done over the recent years. And I like to think, you know, RYDC, we're doing our little bit in terms of the finance, in terms of off the field. You know, we try and provide Craig with as much finance as we can to do what he does, and you know, we can only sit back and marvel at some of the work that's going on. And you know, and it's anyone going round to our academy, for example. You know, I'm lucky enough to be there sometimes, not for a while, to be fair. But you go around, and our academy setup is better than some professional setups at clubs. It just is. You know, when you see the setup we have at our academy, it's impressive. It really is, and I think that's one of the main reasons that we are able to now look at a lot of the development squad and a lot of if we had a B team, etc., you know, 18s, etc. You struggle to find a weak link. You know, every player is as good as each other. You know, and it's I can remember a game we played, and it was James Maxwell that came on, and he came on at left wing because James started as a winger through the Falkirk setup, and he's obviously turned into an incredible left back, as you know. But he came on at left wing, and he was tremendous. He was absolutely tremendous. And somebody whispered to me, "Well, he's actually a left back, but he's filling in." And that just gives you, almost come back to the kind of Ajax model where players can play in a number of different positions, because that's how good they are and how they've been developed, you know. So I'm hugely impressed by the work that the academy, Craig and his team are doing just now, and have done for a few years now, in fact, you know. So it's great to watch it.
No, absolutely. I mean, like, even just talking about the guys, we're just going to kind of move on to some of those guys who are out in loan. And you know, it's funny you say that. Like, a lot of the guys that are doing well now were part of that under-18 team that won the league and cup double, and they were exceptional. Sure. You know, when you had guys like Nathan Patterson at right back, you had James Maxwell at left back, Kyle McClelland, Harris O'Connor, Kai Kennedy, Josh McPake, Dapo Mabudi. I mean, you're probably forgetting some guys like Ben and guys like that, but that under-18 team was actually kind of scary at times when you watched them, because we were coming up against good opposition at under-18 level, like genuinely good teams, and you would come away from the game winning like 7-0, and you're thinking, didn't actually play that well, and yet we'd won 7-0. But that was the level that team had set. So generally, when you watch that team, and it wasn't, you're sort of going back to that word there, like the arrogance factor. We never expected to go and watch that team get beat. You know, we just expected that team would win every single game. So, seeing the odd occasion where they drop points, you come away from the game going, how did they drop points in that game when you look at the players they had? And that was just the thing. And yeah, you're right. I mean, there's a certain degree of, when you look at the quality even in the current 18 squad, it's very exciting. You know, we've obviously been out and we've added some new players. Obviously, part of your money goes towards helping these guys come in, and I think that is important. That people have to understand, you can't always have like 11 guys that's gone through the academy. You know, there's always going to be a need to add somebody here and there. Like James, James come in, you know, at a time when that under-18 team was really strong. So I remember when James came in on trial, and you're sitting going, this kid's going to have to be really good to even get a contract to be part of this squad because of how strong it was. But then James gradually broke into the team, as you said, as a left winger. And he was scoring goals, he was creating goals. And then I think it was like the following year when he come back, they basically moved him into the left back position. And he's never looked back really. No. And he's kind of one of the ones we're going to kind of have a wee chat about in terms of the loans. James has obviously been out on loan to Queen of the South this season. And I don't think people realise how tough the Championship is. It's a very physical league. And and this season, with the quality of teams that's in it, I think James has done really well, and I think he's 100% one that possibly next season, if the club are going to look to loan him out again, might be, you know, one that could go to a top flight club. Do you think that's something that the club will look to do potentially?
I mean, obviously, I don't know about that, to be fair, but I mean, I think talking about the Championship, you know, it's a tough league. It is a tough league. I mean, English Championship is tough. The Scottish is as well. I mean, even going down the leagues, they're all hard. They're populated by a lot of professionals who've been in the Premiership and are working their way down. They're solid pros. They've maybe come up from the juniors. They're hard players, you know, and we have to remember a lot of our kids are going out there. What I'm guessing one of the main reasons they're out there is to put them into men's football and to get elbowed and to get pushed and to get, you know, shoved in by 6'2" experienced 35-year-old players, you know, and you know, in many cases when I first saw James, I think if I blew, he would have fallen over because he was quite very slight. Do you know, and Nathan was as well. He was very slight, but it's just part of the development. We have to remember these guys at that time would be 15, 16-year-old. They're boys, you know. So, but then obviously development at the club, they start to fill out, and the experience of playing in the championship, you know, and I'll bet, you know, each of them are going home every night after every game with aches and pains and legs where they've been kicked and punched and bruised, and you know, and that's all part of the development as well. Going out there to be roughed out a little bit because it's part of the game, you know. It absolutely is. But going back very very quickly to what you said about that 18 squad, you know, I can remember talking to it was either Craig or Graham, I can't remember, and we were coming up soon against Bayern Munich, and we expected to win. Do you know, and that's how crazy it kind of got with the development squad and the players that we had around that time. So, you know, that run in Europe that we had, and going up against some of the PSV and you know, and played Ajax over in Ajax, and you're kind of watching saying, well, we should win today, and you're forgetting who you're coming up against, these massive European clubs. But that's the kind of standard I think that Rangers are now at, and then of course Alcas, etc. You know, we've certainly raised the bar, but certainly, you know, talking about the players out on loan, you know, I think they're all. I can't think of anybody who's not doing well. You know, and again, using that word development, you know, this is a tremendous development for all of them. You know, Stephen Kelly and Josh down at Harrogate is doing really well, scoring goals. Kai getting man of the match performances. I mean, fairly recently, you know, I picked up the Sunday paper and there's a report on it. Was a fairly big section on, you know, Kai's. He was playing against Hearts at Tynecastle and set up a goal, and in fact, I think he set up two. You know what? That's tremendous. You know, Kai's played against Hearts at Tynecastle. You know, so that's experience that, you know, is probably a bonus when we put kids out on loan. You know, you kind of hope they get that experience, but you can't guarantee it, sort of thing, you know, because at the end of the day, it's down to the kids to play well and cement their place in those teams, you know. So, but they're all, I can't think of any of them who you would think, oh, they're not doing too well. They're all doing incredibly well, which again, I think goes back to the standards that have been set at the academy. You know, in my mind, I'd like to think that when they go into all the players go into the various teams, they've brought something to those clubs. And I'll bet there's one or two players in that dressing room looking at Kai and looking at Lewis and looking at James thinking, all right, he does that. I'm going to do that now. You know, because we'll have brought good learning, if you like, from our academy to some of the clubs. I no disrespect to a lot of the clubs, but we have a top-class elite academy, you know, so, and a lot of our players have been there for a number of years, so they'll be taking good learning to the other clubs and you know, and passing on tips and hints to the others, you know, so it kind of goes both ways, but it's great to watch them, isn't it, the various clubs, you know. I definitely keep an eye on all of them, you know.
Yeah, I think the funniest ones was when Ben Williamson went to Arbroath, and I thought, Dick Campbell is your manager, that's definitely going to be interested to see. But he really seems to love Ben. He seems to love.
Yeah, he does. Ben's a good kid, isn't he?
And the way, and to watch, you know, there's some players that suit certain managers, and to me, Ben is exactly the type of player that Dick Campbell loves. He's aggressive. He's hard in the tackle. He'll always give you 100%. He's committed. And what a lot of people probably don't know about Ben is he's technically a very good player. You know, he's got a lovely strike of a ball from distance. I mean, he scored one of the best free kicks that I've seen anybody score at the academy. I think it was in a 3-3 draw against Celtic, and Ben like sort of shoved a couple of the players out of the way and said, I'm taking this, and then he just pinged it right in the stanchion, like literally in the stanchion. And he just stood there as though like he knew he was going to hit it like that. And you're just thinking, that's like a wee kind of string to his bow that maybe a lot of people haven't seen with Ben. Because he's always been known as a bit
confidence, you know.
Of course, everybody's a regular in a Scottish Championship team. And to me, I think that is what the loan development's all about. Guys going out and seeing like the other side of the game. Same like, as you said earlier, Nicky Hogarth out at Cowdenbeath. I mean, you've got the big track round about that, that park. I mean, it's not a normal football stadium, really, Cowdenbeath, when you see it, And then
character building.
Yeah, look, I mean, it's a culture shock, I would imagine. The same, obviously, for Lewis Budenowskis, it had to go out to like civil service strollers. But at the end of the day, he was playing week in, week out in the Lowland League. And for a goalkeeper, I think you need to be, maybe 150 games, maybe 150 games before you can probably feel at that level. So you've got to go out and play a bit like Robbie's had to do it, and obviously Kieran Wright's had to do it. Brian Kinnear's now doing it. And it's just part of the sort of goalkeeper union, isn't it? It takes 2, 3, 4 years. It's not like you're an outfield player. Some outfield players will play for a year and then move into the first team. With goalkeepers, that's not really how it works.
No, it's difficult. It's definitely harder. I mean, talking to Robbie a few times, and he's well aware. I mean, certainly for goalkeepers, they have that slightly longer career, I guess, so there's not a massive panic at age 23, 24 to be in the first team at Rangers, sort of thing, so, and Robbie certainly knows that, but it's a different position to outfield, there's no question. It's, a separate skill set, etc. I mean, nowadays, you look at the top keepers, say that, Man City, Liverpool, they're as good with their feet as they are with their hands these days. It's all about playing the ball from the back, and you kind of turn away sometimes when you see, oh God, get rid of it. That's the way things are. The keepers are playing balls across the 6-yard box to defenders these days. So, but no, I think the loan program has been really useful. A wee story. I did my B license down at Largs, and Dick Campbell was my kind of one-on-one coach. So I learned a few words during those 2 weeks, I'll tell you. So I know all about Dick, and good luck to Ben. I'm sure Ben was certainly hardened up, put it that way. Working for Dick. He won't allow any slackers. That's for sure. Not that any of our boys would, to be fair. I think that's one thing that our boys will always have is application and determination and drive, etc. So I like to think anyway, without physically seeing them all each week, I can only imagine the enthusiasm and drive that all of our boys are putting into it. You won't get any lazy performances from any Rangers player on loan. That's guaranteed. That's absolutely guaranteed. So it's great to see the boys out, because obviously, without being able to go out on loan, you would sort of wonder, well, what would they be doing this weekend, for example, if they weren't on loan? So it's been, I think well done to the academy again for arranging the deals with the various clubs to get the boys playing. It's certainly been character building for each one of them, and I'm sure they would all come back and say, yeah, that was good. I enjoyed that. No, I enjoyed that.
Absolutely.
So, yeah.
I'll just bring you up to date. I mean, if any of the guys haven't seen any of the scores so far from the under-18s, so far this season, we've beaten Kilmarnock 2-1, Dundee United 2-1, a 2-0 victory against Hearts, and as we said earlier on today, Rangers drew 3-3 with Celtic. Goals from Charlie Lindsay, Ross McCausland, and Alex Lowry with a stunning free kick from what I'm told. So I'm sure if anybody's maybe got social media and they've got Instagram, Alex Lowry's page might be worthwhile checking out, because I think he showed the free kick somewhere. Excellent. I mean, Alex has never been scared to show his qualities when it comes to these things. So if you've got Instagram, maybe go and check Alex's page out and see his free kick. It's a worldie by all accounts.